you doing?
Yo, 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 what up, everybody?
Yo, that's a cool intro. That's a cool intro, guys.
Thanks.
Well, Axel has officially outdone us with the background.
Yes.
Like,
Yeah, I
we
mean,
can't
I
top
had
that.
to. I had to. Hollywood
You
represent.
missed it. He had to get up real quick, so we got to see the back of his chair, and I was like, "Okay, Hollywood, what's up?" He's got like a
Yeah,
little.
I gotta show. I gotta show.
Yeah, you
it for
got to
the
show everybody now his little. We need to step our game up
Apparently,
Yeah.
we do.
immediately.
No, you guys are doing great. Like, this is like, I'm super excited to do this because, like Kat was saying, like, I always get to interview other people, but like, not all the time I go on other people's shows. So I'm super excited. And you guys came in strong with the intro. So I want to get this going. Like, let's do this. I'm excited.
Let's do it.
I'm excited because we were supposed to have you on a couple of weeks ago. Unfortunately, I had to cancel that. But I figured we would just start this off on how me and you actually became introduced to one another. Because I did have a few people that were like, how on earth did you get this guy to come on your show? So you had interviewed Justin. How do I pronounce the last name? Waller, who, if you don't know Justin Waller, he takes a little bit of backlash on the internet for some of his views on
Do we have that
gender
video?
roles. I actually do. I have the video. So I had seen this interview. I think I saw it on, it was either Facebook or TikTok. I had seen a clip. And I was like, and I really liked what Justin had said in it. So I reposted it. And this was from an interview that you two did together. And the amount of backlash that I got on this video was insane. It also decided to go viral. As of tonight, it's at almost 13 million views.
Wow.
And it's still
And
going.
I think when I saw the video, a friend sent it to me, and then I messaged you, and I think you had like 1 million. And I was like, this is insane how crazy this is.
Yeah, now it's at almost 13. So we're going to actually play the clip that I had shared. Here it is.
Her ass and make more money than the guy that laid the road for us to get here. I have nothing against the girl shaking her ass. I just simply have a heart for the men that build this country and that build anything anywhere, because everybody else gets to live this really plush life because of these people that get up every morning before daylight, work all day in the sun, and go home and don't even get appreciation for it. I don't think the average person understands that and appreciates the guys wearing hard hats in this country.
The amount of backlash, though, that I got on that video, because it was primarily from women who, you know, were like, we helped build the country too. And I understand that. But I really did like the take on appreciating the men, because I feel like we don't do that enough, that it's kind of, you're not supposed to appreciate men. You get in trouble for doing that. So yeah, I had shared it, and then X reached out to me and was like, how did you do that? And I have no idea. And like I said, it's still going. So I appreciate your clip on my page.
Yeah, no, thank you so much for sharing it. And I think the reason that you got the backlash, but you also got a lot of positive comments. So I think, I don't know the ratio, but I do get a lot of messages, at least to me. Like, I don't get any hate from people saying, oh, what did you have Justin on the show? Or what you guys saying this? The opposite. I get a lot of guys just sharing. We had another clip that went viral talking about how you need to prioritize fitness over working or finances. And like, then people take it the wrong way. They're like, oh, it's not a zero-sum game. It's not, you only appreciate the man and don't worry about the women, or don't give women any credit. Or people want to do the opposite. Women are the best thing ever, and like, they're the goddesses and they created the universe and they're everything. And men just like sit down and let women take over.
Mm-hmm.
That is the thing that, I mean, you find that in the internet. I think most people, when you sit down with them over pizza and some drinks and you start talking about all of this, I mean, I have gotten into some heated debates with some friends, but for the most part, people, I believe everyone wants the best for everyone, and everyone wants all of the both genders to be happy and be accepted and appreciated. But it's interesting how you get people taking that not out of context. They just take it personal. They just say, oh, because you want to appreciate a guy that is working on a construction site and you're talking shit about the girl that is on OnlyFans, now you're saying that women don't have a role in society or building our country. And that is not what we said. That is not what the
Right.
clip says.
Right.
That is not what we mean to say. One can exist with the other. Like both things do exist in our country.
Mhm.
It's a free country, which is amazing, and that's something I love being an immigrant. Like in America, you can either be an OnlyFans person or be a construction company person. Like it's awesome that you get to do whatever you want. But I'm curious to know what else did you hear? Like, what are some of the crazy comments that you hear?
So a lot of it was women who were upset because they also contribute, and I had returned with, of course they can. I had actually made a couple snarky videos in response to some of the comments. But I did have a lot of positivity, and there was also positivity coming from women as well that I was really happy to see. Because one of my favorite things about Justin, and I feel like he does get a lot of heat from it sometimes, is that he does believe in those traditional roles. And as a woman watching his content, you can either be offended because what he's saying is true, or you can just say, yeah, no, what he's saying is true. I had a lot of women that were like, no, if I did have somebody that stepped in this way, I would give up XYZ to have this life and to have what I want. But then you also had a lot of men that were like, oh, but the men are paying for her OnlyFans. And I said, well, he literally said in the beginning of the video, I have no problem with the girl that's shaking her ass on the internet. He started the video. I mean, the clip is started off with that. But I think that people tend to ignore that part of it, or it's insecurity, or I'm not sure what exactly it is. And I think a lot of men feel the need to bow down to this independent woman complex, which, like, if that's what you want, that's what you want. Go and live your best life doing that. But there's also women who don't want that, very proudly don't want that. I'm one of those women. I don't want to go to work all day long. I want to take care of my children, and I want to take care of my home, and I want to be a supportive wife to my husband and see him succeed and grow, because that's us growing together. I mean, that's a luxury that I have because of what he's willing to do for me. And he is one of those guys that's working on a construction site. You know, he builds houses from the ground up. That's what he does. Houses that you bring your babies home to, that you know, that's a really important part of your life. And we don't respect the people that do that. But I'm also very anti OnlyFans. I'm a very, very anti OnlyFans girl. Very.
Why?
Because to me personally, I just think it's very degrading. I understand that a lot of women believe that that's them being in power of their sexuality, and they get to say when and who and all those things. And I believed that at one point in my life. I danced for a period of time until I really discovered my worth. And then now I just believe it's below women. I do. I think that women are so much more than that, just in what they are and what they're biologically meant to do is so incredible and beautiful and wonderful, and men can't touch it. But the same goes to men. Men have those qualities too. I just think that showing your body all over the internet, you're more than that.
Yeah, I think honestly, for the most part, it was just a short time during the lockdown and everything being closed down that worked. And it was like this crazy surge of like, oh, I can make money showing a little bit. Some people were making money without even showing that much, to be honest. And then
True.
that got mixed with, there's also thousands of women that were showing everything and getting like $20 a month, which goes to show that, I mean, it's a crazy idea to think, oh yeah, I'm going to make a lot of money doing this. I think it's a lot of misinformation. There's a couple famous people that made a shit ton of money within a week of doing the accounts, and then they didn't do it anymore. They just cashed in. But those women were already ultra famous influencers, had millions of followers, and then when you get a 10% of those people paying like $10 just to see what you're going to do, just for the curiosity play of it. So I personally don't have any problem with it. To me, it's not even, I mean, it's borderline immoral,
Mhm.
but what I would say is it's just a bad business decision.
Mhm.
When you, as a woman, you go and you do that, unless you're dedicating yourself to go into that line of work, which if that's what you want to do, go ahead and do it. But that is way far from empowerment. That is almost the opposite and going backwards in empowerment. Like right now in America, as a female, you can go into any industry, any company, you can do anything, whatever you want, you can do it. And then you're going to plant your flag on, oh, the thing that I want to do and be accepted is showing off my body for money. That's not very smart.
Agree.
And it's not sustainable. It's not sustainable income. This is, you have a few good years before age takes in and gravity takes in and all the things take in. This is not a sustainable way to capitalize. I'm all for capitalism, but it's not a sustainable way to earn money and leave a legacy. You know, I'm also really traditional like that. You know, I want, my dad was an immigrant from Ireland and he worked very hard to be over here. And we were born here with all of these privileges that we have. And I would just hate for that to be the legacy attached to his name, that I decided that what I was going to do with that is just sell my body on the internet, when I could just, you know, have a whole bunch of babies and treat them all the right things and teach them all the things to go and be successful, and then keep that legacy of that name going. Because so now you are, obviously, I detect a bit of an accent. So you are
From Texas.
You're from Texas originally. Is that where you're from?
I wish.
So now where are you from originally?
So I was born and raised in Havana, and I came to America in 2012. And I was very fortunate that I went to a film festival in Canada. And, you know, in the festival, I was coming with about 10 Cubans. We had this team. We were going to do an event, a film festival there in Quebec. And a couple days after I landed, I snuck out. Like, it was early, around 6 a.m. We packed a small backpack with some clothes. We left all of our suitcases at the hostel that we were staying with, all the other people that were coming from all over the country, from all over the world, actually, to be in that festival. And we just went for the border and came to America as refugees. I was with my ex-wife at the time, and that's how we made it into America.
See, and I love that. What are some of the big cultural shocks that you've had from coming from Cuba to here?
Well, the first time I went to a Walmart, I got lost, and I was so flabbergasted about the amount of stuff. And I remember we were driving around, and this is, mind you, this is in Cleveland, Tennessee. This is a town of 30,000 people in the South in Tennessee, not New York or nothing crazy.
Right.
And I remember we drove around this little like hill to go into the parking lot, and there were so many cars. Like, I had never seen so many cars in one parking lot at the same time. And that was shocking. But the moment that really touched me, about a week in, I got invited to speak at a high school to talk about my experience and all of that. And, you know, I was a filmmaker. I was in Cuba making films. I had made music videos that went on TV in Cuba, and I was able to come to America, and like, people knew that I made films, that I was like a professional. Even though I was only 21, I had already produced like a dozen music videos, and to my age and the country where I was a professional, and that's what I did for a living for several years. But I go to this high school, and I remember I walk in, and they were showing me their little media program, and they had about 10 iMacs all lined up. And to me, that was like incredible. And then I see the kids, they were like 13, and they were opening, they had like 5 boxes with these cameras. And these were like small Sony Handycam cameras. but they were like HD and everything. And as they're opening the cameras, they were doing it like just as you open the mail, like it wasn't a big deal. And I remember like my eyes got watery. I started crying. And I got a knot in my throat, and like I had to walk out because those kids in a public high school in a small town in Tennessee had better equipment that the professionals on the TV station in the capital of my country. And I was just so upset because for my entire life, my government lied to us, saying that America was terrible, the education system was terrible. And it was not true. And I was so upset. I was so enraged. And at the same time, happy that I was now here, but sad that I spent my whole life with nothing. And just the fact that someone had lied to us repeatedly for so many years, telling us that America was this terrible place where nobody would help you, where the government was ruthless, and it was like a dog eat dog type place. And it was all a lie. If you are in America today, you have way more resources, even in public system, public school, than any major other place in the world. And I think we don't do a good of enough job reminding people in America of how good we have it here. And we need to take care of this country and make sure that we love this country because it's amazing what we have here.
No, I completely agree with you. My dad used to call it American privilege. That a lot of times Americans, because we were born into as much privilege as what we were born into, right? I mean, I can walk down the street and say whatever I want here. I can come on YouTube and say whatever I want to. And now, is this something that you would be able to do in Cuba? You know,
100% no. Like I got the police was chasing after me. Like I remember the first big video that I was going to produce. We went out, we got this little camera and we went out to shoot interviews with young people in the streets, just talking about music. Like I was doing like a youth magazine type video, and we're just asking people, oh, what's your favorite genre? What's your favorite music? And we got chased down by the police because traditionally people out in the streets doing interviews, it was usually people would do videos talking about how bad the government was and then leak those videos out of the country to try to tell the truth outside in Miami or in other countries. So a camera outside in Cuba, like that was like, no. So we got the police went after us, 2 police cars, and we're running. We had to hide in the church and like hide under a little alleyway in the back. And like when they came questioning the people on the door, they had to say, oh, they went that way. Like we had to do that. And we were just like kids. We were teenagers. We were just shooting a little video about music. Like, and
here we
could
walk
you have
around escaping
you
everything.
have just shown the video to the police and just said, no, this is what we're doing. And like,
no,
been
you would
good?
still get in trouble. No.
Wow.
You still get in trouble because they don't know. So that would make you want to like either delete the footage, and then how did you get that camera? That camera is illegal. How are you allowed to have that camera? So it was a problem. Like it was everything a problem. And like I still get messages. Like the other day I posted a reel talking about the truth about Cuba and how things used to be really good in Cuba, and then when the communist system came through, like everything changed. And this moron, like he has to be like, I don't know what else to say, I'm sorry, but he kept arguing that no, Cuba is not like that. The reason Cuba is bad is because of the US embargo. And I'm like, the US embargo is not limiting the freedom of speech inside that country. It's their own Cuban country limiting people people don't get freedom of speech and freedom of market. So like it has nothing to do with this imperialistic, capitalistic, like agenda. It's like what I remember when I first came to America, people didn't even know where Cuba was. Like people have no idea. And then in our country, they used to just tell us the whole time that the US was doing everything in their hands to try to enslave Cuba and take over our resources. It's just like ridiculous. Like when you're actually out of the country and you see everything in America, you realize there's so much land and resources in North America that we could care less about a tiny little island in the Caribbean that can barely has any land to build anything on it.
Well, even still here, if you go on Google and you Google Cuba to do research on Cuba and you go to the images, they're beautiful.
Yeah, because
they're still beautiful on Google as if it's still this big tourist. I mean, these are all really old images from when tourism was at a peak level in Cuba, and it was very profitable there, and it was better there than what it is now.
but it was better for the companies and the government. So
Mhm.
the few companies, because my uncle used to work at a hotel. He was a like a bellboy at a hotel, and my uncle used to make about 10 times more than my mom, and my mom was a doctor. So my uncle just taking tips from people at the hotel carrying their bags, just $5 here, $5 there. If you made, imagine, like he could make $25 in a day in tips. My mom will make $20 a month as a doctor. That was her salary from
As a
her, like,
doctor?
yes. And that's why health care for everybody in a communist socialistic way, it sounds amazing, but it just doesn't work. Like the math doesn't add up.
Well, and that's the
So
problem, though, right? Is that it all sounds so good. Like if you're a good-hearted person, of course I want everybody to be able to have health care. Of course I want everybody to be able to be happy and have all the things, but it's not possible.
no, and it would never be possible. Just when you look at nature, not all animals are the same.
Mhm.
Not all animals have the same size or shelter or access to the same food or water resources. So we can do our best. I do believe that at least we have somewhat of equal opportunities. At least legally, you are allowed in America to start your own business. You
Mhm.
can speak your mind, and you have access to like pretty much everything that other people have access on a base level. Now, do some people from some countries or families have access to more connections and more money? And oh yeah, of course, and
Mhm.
that's how it should be. Like, why not? Like, if my dad had spent 30 years building a company and building a network of people, why shouldn't I have access to his network
Right.
if I'm his son?
Mhm.
That makes no sense for you to be mad at the fact that people at an Ivy League school have more connections than you. Yeah, stop crying about it. Just go and try to get yourself into that school. And if you cannot get into the school, try to get connections in the way that you can. Like, if I'm an immigrant and I can come to this country after I'm 22, and like a couple of years in, I can be making more money than adult people who have been here forever.
Mhm.
Like, it means that the system is open and that you have opportunities.
Mhm.
You're just not taking advantage of the opportunities. You don't have the same skills, and if you don't have the same skills, yeah, you should not make the same amount of money. People should not be treated the same or get the same outcome if they don't put in the same level of work, talent, and intensity to what they do. That's the way it should be.
Mhm. I couldn't agree with you more.
Now, when the COVID lockdowns came, did that kind of frighten you a little bit? Like take you back to your country, your home country? Like,
No,
I don't know.
not
I don't know
really.
exactly where you reside, so I don't know how strict it was.
Yeah, I'm here in LA. So when COVID
Oh, yeah.
happened here, it was pretty strict here.
Mhm.
But Tex, the thing is that we have this fear of communism, but America is never going to be a communist country, man. We like our cars and our food too much. Like, there's no way we're not going to allow that. Now, it's true that if let alone and if we don't take care of the way people think and we don't share like my story or like we don't talk about these things in a long enough timeline, if people keep moving towards the thing that sounds right, we could go in that direction. It will have to take many, 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 many years to be able to get there, but it
Sure.
could happen. So I'm not denying that to you. And I think COVID was just like a little taste of when you have big government and that government flips on you or decides to do something that you don't agree with, a big government will have the power to do whatever it wants. So on that end, yes, it felt a little bit like that. I think the side of the misinformation was the other thing that was very critical, because if you don't have access to the right information, you're not able to think through it and make the right decisions. So that was a little bit tricky. But at the end of the day, we still had stores that had food, even though like it wasn't, you guys got a taste of what it feels like to go to a store and you only have like 2 cans of something here and everything else is empty. So that's how we grew up our entire
Mhm.
lives. So it did have a little bit of that, but I think overall people overreacted, and it makes better clips for social media and for the news and all that. But I don't know. I still felt that with all the things that we have in place, from our electoral system to the way like we have freedom of speech, like people can say what they want, people can rally up and like go to different places and do whatever they want, which actually shown with the whole Black Lives Matter movement and with all that, it got a little bit dicey because people were going rogue and doing whatever, and then you have these groups divided and these people fighting these people. So that wasn't pretty at all. But just the fact that you're allowed to do that, that you would even think, oh yeah, that is okay, that's a right that I have. If I don't agree with something, I want to go and protest. Just the fact that we have that is so much better than coming from a communist country where you can't really do any of that.
So what would happen if 20, 30 people decided that they were going to protest the government in Cuba?
Well, last year in around September, there was a big protest, and my brother was in Havana at that time, and hundreds and thousands of people, they just had enough. So in my entire life since I was a kid, like I never heard or saw anything like that. People would never dare to do that because of like the strong repression that the U.S. government, the Cuban government will have against anyone who protests. But this was like the culmination of like so many things going wrong: the lockdowns, no tourism, people in America couldn't send money to Cuba. So it was like a boiling pot, and finally people just had enough. So they really got into trouble. You can search online, you can see the videos. Like the police came out and they were like shooting at people, they were beating people, they were taking people to jail. Just they had people just come out with their hands up, no weapons, nothing, and they couldn't even do that. And that was like for about a month. They were having all of these protests all over the country, and it was really intense. I was here and I was like really anxious, and I was like trying to communicate with my family. They shut down the internet several times so you couldn't reach anyone. That way they couldn't send out any information. But now with like phones and opening up a little bit after Castro died, they just couldn't hold it in. So hundreds and hundreds of videos got out of people being repressed and being beat by the Cuban government and the police and being taken into prison. A couple artists got into real big trouble. They got detained. They weren't sent to the police, but everyone was filming it. So the good thing is that it showed that the Cuban people still, I don't know, they still have hope. They could still do something. The sad thing is that even if they dethrone that government, you have like 50 years in the past when it comes to infrastructure, business, communications, all of that. So it's really sad. It was a really beautiful country, and every time I go, I'm super excited to go and see my family. And I go with dreams and drive to say, okay, let's find a way to make a business, to find a way to do something, sell this, sell that. Like, let's see if we can find a property and buy this and like build this and like. But then after a couple of weeks, you just get beat because nothing that you try works, and everything is limited. You're just running up against a wall all the time, and that forms patterns of thinking in your mind. And when you extrapolate that to like 11 million people, and everyone just knows that it doesn't matter what you do, the only way is leaving, going to another country so you can have a better life, or hoping that someone in your family leaves and that they can send you money later. But actually building that country in there, it's something that is a little bit of a dead end.
Yeah.
It's sad. It's sad because I mean, I'm surprised you're able to go back. Because you kind of defected, right? Essentially.
Yes, I defected, and I was worried because I went to Canada on official government business because I was working with the Film Institute. So I was really afraid that I was going to get in trouble. But when you go back, they have opened up a little bit, and they allow people to come back. Because think about it, Tex, whenever I'm going, I'm spending thousands of dollars there that couple of weeks that I'm going.
Sure.
So if you start shutting down all of the people that want to come back, that equals to millions of dollars every year of income that the government gets. And like the moment you walk in, for you to use your dollars, you have to exchange them for their own made up dollar. So like, and they put like a 17% tax on you. So right off the bat, they're taking money from you. And then you're going to spend your money in all of their establishments because the government controls every store, every nightclub, every restaurant, everything. So it's a little bit of a, a shot in the foot if they don't allow people to come back. But I did have my reserves. I was afraid I was going to get in trouble. So when I came in, I had this full suitcase with cameras and equipment. So that raised a flag. So they put me through a different customs process. They brought this lady that went through all of the equipment. They were concerned because like, why did I have all these cameras and I was coming in with all of this? So I had to explain to her that I was a filmmaker, that this is how I travel, that I travel the whole world. Like I always travel. This is my like easy travel kit. This is nothing like crazy. Right. She was freaking out when she saw all those cameras and those lenses and stuff. So they put everything on a list, and they just wanted to make sure that I was taking back everything with me, because you're not allowed to leave things like that. Otherwise, it will be an import. And if you're importing electronics, then you have to pay a fee.
Even if it was a gift for your cousin.
Yeah. Yeah. They wouldn't account it as a gift. And they're also avoiding people bringing equipment that then they don't get a cut on. So if you sell that equipment, they have no part in it, and they can't regulate cameras and things like that. So that was tricky, but I got away with it. And then I left a few things, and then I took a lot of things back. So yeah, it was good.
It's like, yeah, it worked out.
Yeah. And every time I go, I think that comes to you as you become more free. Like me living in America, every year that goes by, I believe more in myself. I believe more that things are possible. So I don't take shit from anyone. So like, I remember years later, I went again and I was going to film my feature documentary. And I went to another city, and it was a smaller town. And they wanted to like confiscate my hard drives and my cameras stuff. And like, I was fighting with the guy, like one of the higher ups of the customs at that airport. Because it's like, I'm not going to give you my stuff. This is mine. Mm-hmm. Like, I want to do whatever I want with it. And the funny thing is that if you tell someone long enough that you cannot do this, you cannot do this, you cannot do this, you cannot do this, eventually you believe it, and then everyone believes it, and then everyone keeps each other down. That is and that has been studied with psychology and all the research, when like the monkey, when it's trying to leave the cage, you spray them with water. Like if you do that repeatedly, eventually, even if you replace all the monkeys in the cell, like they all have that ingrained. And that's what happened in that country. So that's why we need more people to go there and to show the Cuban people that, hey, like things are possible. You can do whatever you want. You don't have to be tied up by this crazy ideas that, no, you just cannot do that because you're Cuban and that's it. No, fuck that.
Right. Are you still allowed to bring cigars back?
Yes. So every time I go, I do bring cigars back.
Very big cigar man.
Yes. They in customs, if you bring like one small box that is clearly for personal use,
right?
The US even, because one time they checked me in Miami, and the guy saw it and was like, "Oh, okay." Like if you bring like a bunch of boxes, then you get in trouble.
Yeah. They're great cigars.
They are. And funny thing, I didn't even smoke my first Cuban cigar until I was in America.
Now all of a sudden you wanted it, right?
No, it's just like, well, no, it's like smoking cigars, to be honest, like cigars in Cuba, only the old people smoke cigars.
Right.
Like, so like your grandpa would do it, but you're like, that's gross. Like nobody smokes. I don't smoke. And I was like, I grew up in the church. So I was raised with like no alcohol, no cigars or anything. I never had a desire to do it. But I remember one time I was with my boys in Tennessee, and it was like the New Year's Eve, and they had a cigar, and they had this Cuban cigar. And that's the first time I tried it. And they're really strong. But now every now and then I do like cigars now. But it's interesting. I never thought that I would like cigars.
It's interesting to me that you didn't have your first Cuban cigar until you were an American citizen.
Yeah.
Same with the Cuban sandwich. I remember I went to a hotel one time.
Those are my favorite too. Like, no lie, I love the Cuban sandwich.
Yeah. dude, it's like to find mustard in Havana, you would have to like kill a fairy or something. Like we don't have that there.
What got you so what got you into, because you do, is it just filmmaking? Is it photography? Like, is it all the things?
Yes, I always loved movies since I was a kid. You know, it started with Terminator 2 and Arnold, and like I love action movies. And I did a little bit of photography because like film is so amazing because it's a combination of all the arts. It's like the best, like top of everything because you have to combine architecture, painting, music, acting, writing, everything comes together to make film. So yeah, film is my passion. I started when I was young. I started doing little shorts, directing music videos, doing like little TV programs, documentaries, and little by little I just started learning and doing better, getting in trouble, doing better. And I had some people at the church that I was at the time who really believed in me, and they allowed me to like play, and they gave me some of the resources to go and make all of these videos. And a lot of nights going to bed at 3 4 in the morning, learning, studying on my own, trying to read up on anything I could get my hands on, do it, any little tutorial to learn how to do this trick and that trick. And yeah, that's what I love, making movies, films, TV shows. That's my passion.
What are you working on right now? Anything?
So right now I'm about to start working on a new script, and I work full time as a producer at Impact Theory. It's a studio based here in LA. We have two major podcasts online. We have a comic book division. So we're about to launch that phase two of that video game. So I'm helping with some of the cinematics and the marketing materials, and like all the teasers and like the little cut scenes that go inside the game. So I'm about to start learning a lot more how to do virtual production and motion capture and the animation side of things and Unreal, and just bringing my knowledge of like story structure, pacing, the editing, the directing side of things, and then now putting that into like digital characters. So I'm learning a lot of how that works, but using the same tricks, that because it all works the same, like the story is the same, why characters do this, the motivation of the camera moving this way versus that way. So it's putting all of that together and now making games. And the goals for the future is to keep growing my podcast because I love to interview people and get to their stories. And as you can tell, I like to talk a lot. So
Hey, no, I like that. I like that.
You're not on strike then with the rest of the Writers Guild, or?
I'm not, because
I'm good.
He's like, I still got to make a living.
I'm gonna work.
Yeah, no, I'm not. So the strike is a very interesting thing to get into.
I know
very
nothing
interesting
about this, so I
topic.
feel like you have a lot more expertise. And like I don't follow it. I love movies. I love TV shows. I'm a huge video game girl. Love them, especially if there's a good storyline in a video game. I'm sold. Make me love the characters. We're good. But I'm not into celebrities, so I don't really understand why a bunch of rich people are really mad.
Good. So the problem is that the rich people are not mad. The rich people are fine. They might be mad now because things are put on hold completely, but they were not the ones suffering or struggling or calling the strike. So what happens with the strike is you have the WGA, is the Writers Guild of America. It represents all of the writers, right, who write professionally for TVs and movies. They have about 14,000 members, and they can renew the contract with the MPA, which regulates all the movie production studios, like the big major, like Universal, Warner Brothers, Disney, all of those big studios. And they just come into agreement every year, and they say, okay, the minimum you can pay a writer for an episode of TV is X. The minimum you can pay a writer for an hour drama on Prime TV network is this, and then the residuals are this and this. Now, all of that was fine. Everything was working well. Now, the problem was enter the streaming networks and enter Netflix, Disney Plus, Peacock, Apple TV, Amazon Prime. When all of these companies are coming in, they started buying licensing deals and licensing agreement for short periods of time, and they have no ads. So they just pay you an upfront fee and that's it. You don't get the residual income. So let's say you were a writer on Law and Order and you wrote an episode of TV, it goes on that show, you get paid a good chunk of money up front. But then that episode is going to keep playing on cable, and cable is playing that and selling it against advertising. So like your Toyota commercial and your Coca-Cola commercial is paying the network, and the network is replaying the episode that you wrote 3 years ago, but it's still a good episode, so they still run it. So you keep making money. So think about it. If you're a writer and you wrote for 10 different shows, after a decade, your residual checks are going to be amazing because you're going to be getting checks from all of these different shows that you worked on. And the networks are making a lot of money because of the commercials. But with Netflix, you can watch 300 episodes of a show. There's no commercials. You already paid your subscription. That's it. There's no more money. So the challenge with the strike is the streaming economy doesn't align with the model that pays residuals to the writers. So the writers are like, what the fuck? Like, we used to make like 100K a year with all this residual income, and now I'm making like 15,000, if any. Like, and some of the writers make nothing because your residual check is going to be like 45 cents for like something that you did last year. So
it's crazy to me because I feel like the writers, I mean, they're the writers. They're not somebody that's just pretending to be some. And I'm not saying that everybody can be an actor. I'm not saying that. Like, there are more talented actors than others. But these are the people that are putting their whole heart and soul into a storyline and into these characters and developing them and giving them the life that makes everybody fall in love with them. If it wasn't for the writers.
Yes and no. So
No?
I love, yeah, when you think about it, yes and no. I love the writers. I think writers are amazing. They're really good, talented people. But you only go to watch a movie because Liam Neeson is on the cover, or
That's true.
because Tom Cruise is jumping off of like a mountain on a motorcycle.
That's true.
Like, what's your favorite movie, Kat?
My favorite movie is What Dreams May Come with Robin Williams.
And who wrote it?
I don't know.
I knew that was coming.
I did too. I was waiting.
Yeah.
I was like, he's gonna ask me who wrote the damn movie.
Yeah.
And you're right. I don't know. I don't.
Yeah.
But it is,
And-
it's my all-time favorite movie, and it's because of Robin Williams.
Yeah. And now what happened that is unique to this one strike, because we had another strike like a long time ago, but on this one, the actors also came out on strike because the actors are suffering from the same problem. So let's say you go and you do a show at Netflix, you do a movie at Netflix. And for example, have you ever been on Netflix and you see one of those like, you know, B movies that is about like this girl in a small town and like she falls in love and then, oh, the guy was a scammer or whatever, like a B movie.
Right.
That's the Hallmark Channel.
I mean, I don't
Yes.
watch a lot of like love movies,
It's like every line on the
but I
Hallmark.
can think of like some B movies that I've seen. Yeah.
Yes.
No name
So
actors.
that movie will get made for about $200,000 to $300,000. They find a way to make a deal with Netflix and they put it on. So Netflix is going to pay them maybe $30,000 for the movie, and it's going to do a licensing deal for about 2 years, and it's going to pay that quarterly. So like you don't see any money from that. Like the producer is not going to see any money from that movie. So when you go down the food chain, it's like the people who make the movie go first. Then they have to give money to the actors and the writers. Now, what about all the other people below the line? You know that the custom designers don't get any royalties. Like the guys working on the lighting truck don't get any royalties. The guy
Where do you
shooting the
draw the
movie with
line?
the camera,
Yeah.
yeah, it's only the people above the line, and that includes writers, producers, directors, and actors. And I mean that system has worked pretty well for over 100 years.
Mhm.
Now the problem is users don't want, like the audience doesn't want that anymore. So we're not paying. Like you're not going to be paying money and money like all the time for those movies. Like you want it for $10.99. Like you want to get your Apple TV and just have all the streaming services and watch as much as you want. So it's very complicated because it's a larger problem. And the thing that gets me, like, trust me, like we're here at Netflix. So Netflix right there. So if you go that way, those buildings over there, that's all the Netflix thing. Paramount is right over there, and that's where they have all the strike. Why are you laughing, bro?
Not to
It's
flex
like,
out
oh,
my
it's right
back
there.
window or anything. I got
Right.
over here. We got Kroger. Right over here. I got a local Kroger.
We
got a
do
tree
have
over
like
here.
a Trader Joe's over there.
Trader. Ooh, fancy.
No, man, I'm just saying, like, because I walk over there and sometimes I go running and I see the people on the with the strike,
Mhm.
and I need to say this. I want the writers to make money. I want them to be multimillionaires, and same with the actors. But bro, doing a strike is not gonna help. It just means that no one is working. So now for like 5 months, no one has been able to work. And it's
Mhm.
probably gonna be another 5 months before they do it. And people keep saying, no, because the owner of Netflix just bought a new yacht. Yes, he spent 25 years building that massive studio that is a global brand
Well,
with
and you
billions
gotta
of
remember where
dollars.
Netflix started. I mean, they used to
Yeah,
just
as a
send you a
CD distributor.
DVD in the mail,
Right.
and you would get your DVD in the mail and watch it, and then send it back, and they would send you another movie off their list. So they went from that to this. And
To
it's
3 at a
Yes.
time. Remember when they did 3
yeah.
at a time?
Yeah, oh yeah. You felt real fancy when you got 3 movies at a time. And
Yeah,
now you
that's
can
that VIP program.
yeah,
Right.
and now you just anything you want right at the touch of your fingers. Now, didn't this strike have anything to do with like AI? Were actors getting upset
I was
about the
gonna ask
AI
that.
too?
A little bit. There's some of it. I think in the news that makes for more of a interesting take. Oh, the AI is going to take over, blah blah blah.
Yeah.
Not really. Not really. Like we could care less. Like
Wow.
what if I'm going to make, let's say you're doing the next Avengers movie and you're
Mhm.
going to make $1 billion in the box office. Do you think you want to save some money just to hire an AI robot to like write something? You don't care about that. How much like the the budget for the crafty like snacks on that movie is going to be so large that you're not going to skimp out on a writer. You're going to go and find the best writers.
I
They
can see that.
usually, for those big movies, they hire a bunch of writers. Like that's not the problem.
Mhm.
The problem really comes in when this is what happens with a TV show. Before, we used to have 22 episodes on a season, right?
Right.
More often than not, when you open Netflix, the seasons now are 8 episodes up to 13 episodes.
I
So
hate that.
let's say the average is 10 episodes. So that is a 50% decrease.
Mhm.
So that means that if you were employed on this show, you were covered for the whole year. Now that only gives you half of the year to be employed. So that is the big problem.
Mm.
Now, before you used to do the episode, they picked up the pilot, then you go into production. Then you have this process where you're writing an episode, shooting an episode, writing an episode, shooting an episode. They don't do that anymore. If I know that I'm only making 8 episodes, I'm going to hire the showrunner and the writers. And as a producer, I'm going to say, okay, you guys go into a room for like 3 months, write the whole thing, because it's a lot easier for me to go in and shoot the whole season knowing what I'm shooting. So instead of me having to figure out every single episode, so I used to work as a location manager for a show at Amazon, and we were doing, it was a mini series. We're doing 10 episodes. We spent, I, I don't know if I can say the amount that we spent, but it was like a bit less than $100 million in that show, right? So to do that amount of
You allowed
episodes,
to say what show?
it was called Damn Covenant.
Is it
It was
on Amazon Prime?
on Amazon Prime, yeah.
I have to look that.
So the show was set in the 50s. We had so many locations and wardrobe and everything, but we knew what the show was. Like the episodes were not fully written, but we knew the outline. And the creator of the show, he was able to like craft the entire story instead of us going and shooting one episode and then figuring out the next episode. Like you have so much cost involved in that when you do it that way. So it doesn't make sense for the studios. For them, it's better to go in, because if you have a stage, so a lot of the stuff that you watch on TV and movies, usually 50% of the movie is shot on location, 50% of the movie is shot on stage. On stage means that it's a big sound stage and we build the houses and we build like the little sets. You don't get to know, like for you, it looks like a house,
Mhm.
but it's a lie. Like we go shoot the house on the exterior. So if you know that you're going to Kat's house 25 times in the episode and in the season, and you have all of these scenes, Then you just go and you shoot, okay, exterior day, exterior afternoon, exterior night. They come in, they come out, they come in, they come out. You shoot all the things that you need. You only pay CAD that 1 day location fee, and you bring the whole crew there. You close the street, and you shoot everything that you need from the entire season. That saves you hundreds of thousands of dollars, rather than you come in on episode 1, you shoot that, and then on episode 7 you do it again, and then on episode 13 you do it again, because you didn't know that you were going to come back. That's why the writing has completely changed to a batch of episodes. So we know everything that we're doing in that season. Therefore, we don't need that many writers, which sucks for the writers. But also at the same time, you have so many more shows. When you think about the amount of shows that were done before versus the amount of shows that are done now, it's just the economy of the streaming revolution doesn't add up, and it doesn't match what people were making before.
Right.
And honestly, I don't know how we're going to fix it, because to think that Netflix just has deep pockets and the execs are swimming in money and that's why they don't want to give you money, that is just a naive way of thinking about business. It just doesn't work like that.
Why
the
does
money
Netflix get blamed though? Because they're just buying the actual episodes. Why do they get blamed for the CEO making money? Because they're just I get, like, I think they do produce something, right? Because isn't that like the Netflix original?
Well, Netflix owns some of its shows too, like
Yes.
like Stranger Things, for example, is one of their biggest shows that they have, and that's a Netflix show. So where they could, I mean, for a while, The Office was on there, which now it's not. Now it's only on Peacock. That's why I have Peacock now too. But
that was licensed. So Netflix gets the brunt of it because they are the only major streaming studio that is actually making money. So Netflix reported about $5 billion of profit. Every other studio is losing money on their streaming offer, because they took way too long. They couldn't capture enough people. And right now, if you have Netflix, you might have like another, like, in my case, I have a bunch of them because I need to watch things and need to watch movies. And half of the time I end up spending more money on Amazon or YouTube or Apple TV to buy a movie that I need to watch because I'm researching something. So
I have all the streaming service except for Apple, I think. But I was just looking at that one today, because then you'll find a little clip of a show, and you're like, oh, I want to watch that. Well, it's only on Apple. So now I've got to get Apple to watch one show. But I have all of them. I prefer streaming over, but then at the same time, I feel like it's kind of taken away from, I loved going to the movie theater growing up. And when I was in high school, and we'll try to go to the movie theater now, and they're so empty in comparison, because most of these streaming platforms will get them, right as soon as they're done in the theater. So you can just wait a little bit. And I hate that, because I'm one of those people that loved going to the movie theater. I did. I liked the whole experience of it more than, I mean, now that I'm older and I don't like people as much as what I used to, I like being in my house a little bit more. But, well, and everybody's grumpy. You know what I mean? Like, everybody got really grumpy the last few years. Like,
you just got to leave Michigan. I don't know why you...
and we got the guy from California telling us that maybe we need to leave our state. That's pretty bad.
Well, no, I'm just speaking from what you guys are saying. Like, you say people are grumpy, it's really cold. I don't know.
It's not really cold. I'm used to it. I've always lived here. But people are just, I don't know. I think people are tired. It's been a long few years for everybody, so people are just kind of grumpy. So I just don't like to people as much as what I used to like to people. People are kind of rude these days. So, but to me, if they're mad at Netflix, then just do what Netflix is doing, then do it yourself. Then if you're upset that somebody is making all the money, then go and do the thing that makes the money, or don't complain. Like, I'm someone who never like, I don't like the concept of a lot of money. I don't need it. It's just not important to me. I know it's important to other people though, but I'm not expecting to have the same luxuries that you have when you're out there, from the time that you wake up to the time that you go to bed, studying your craft, trying to do the best possible at it that you can be, when I'm like, no, I just want to stay at home and hang out with my kids. That's my joy. That's what I want to do. I don't expect to have the same luxuries as other people do, though, either.
Yeah, I think that's a really smart way of articulating that you just don't want the same hassle. So that's why you don't put value on money and all that. And I guess as long as you find what it is that you're interested in and that you want to put your time and energy in and get happiness from, that's the best you could do. I could sit here and like try to convince you, Kat, you should like have more money and like go after like make more money. But no, if you're happy with what it is that you're doing, then you have found like your happy place, and that's amazing.
Yeah, mine was always to be a mom. Always. And that is my biggest joy, and to be a wife. I love being somebody's wife. I've always wanted to be someone's wife and have the house and want my chickens, and I just want to be left alone. But I do want my children to aspire to be great. You know, like my son is very into video games. So instead of, just play for 9 hours, like, hey, well, how do you think they make a video game? Have you ever seen how they make a video game? You should watch how they make video games, because I want him to do those things. I mean, that to me as a mother, if my son was financially just independent and happy and had all the things that he wanted, that would be my biggest payoff. Where some people, they want the big house and the mansion. I want to see my kids do that more than I want it for myself. I just take joy in being a mom.
Yeah.
It's like the best.
That's wonderful.
It's the best thing ever. It's the best job ever.
Just out of curiosity, how did you, because a lot of these folks that you work with, obviously here in America, they went to school. And did you go to school to do this too? Or did you just pick it up, studied it yourself, like home taught kind of deal, and then just,
I had a mix. I had a mix for sure. Okay. So when I was in Cuba, I just did a lot of self-taught. Like I always loved computers. I was obsessed with video games. So I liked that a lot. So I started learning graphic design, then some photography. Then I started learning how to edit. I was learning how to program things and create like different like game-like software. And then I had to shoot things for it. So that's how I got into it. And I learned the software on my own. I learned all the camera stuff on my own, like watching videos or like reading on like little PDFs, tutorials and things like that. But when I came to America, I had already made a couple films and been to film festivals. So I knew I was proficient. I was a professional, you could say. Like at 21, when I came, I had already been to France with a film. I had gone to Canada for that other film festival. I had my film played in festivals in Havana. And I had already made money like doing music videos for artists and doing like video work for different companies. But going to college in Tennessee, I went to Lee University, and I was so blessed that I got an opportunity to go to school there, and they were just starting their film program. So I did learn a lot there about writing, speaking, my English, like all of that was key. Now, the film history class, I got a really bad grade. My photography class, I got a really bad grade because I was just out there working and shooting things and like traveling and making money. Like I had to provide. I was married when I went to college. So for me,
You were married at 21?
Yeah. Yeah, I got married at 21.
Boy, what were you thinking?
That's why I'm divorced.
Fair enough.
Yeah, but my whole college experience was great. I was married, so I was not going out or playing the fool or going after girls or anything like that. And I was really obsessed with my production company. So I did my first video that I did when it was my like first assignment for school, and I ended up making this music video for a Kia Motors competition, and I won a Kia car. And I was like 21, and that was my first video. So I was already like killing it, So then I started my own company and I started making videos. And then, dude, the first time you turn around and you tell someone, yeah, I can make some videos for your company. And they're like, oh, yeah. So how much? And I remember I got this client to give me like 30 grand to do like 3 videos for them, and they were happy to pay it. Like it wasn't like trying to like come down on price or anything like that. He was like, oh yeah, here's the check. Who do I make the check to? When I got that, I was like, okay, now we're in America. So it's really fun to have that college experience, but I was not like a regular student. I was already like a person with a wife, and like I was already doing my own business. So I was able to do a little bit of both, where I think kids in school right now, they're just wasting too much time with schoolwork and doing their homework and like reading up on all of this nonsense books and like all of these classes about nonsense. Depending, I mean,
and you have access, right? Like with the technology that we have now, anything that I could ever want to know is right here. It's right there.
Yeah.
Like
And
we
you-
have that,
YouTube University.
but we have that luxury and that privilege of our kids knowing what it is that they want to do and just devoting everything to it. But instead, like we have them sit in a classroom for 7 hours a day at 8, 9, 10 years old, and then expect them to come home and then regurgitate all of this stuff. And there's nothing for what they're passionate about anymore. And that's gone further and further away every single year that we stop doing, like theater programs are. When I was in school, we put on huge productions, huge plays. There was a lot of money that went into costumes and sets, and I loved it. I loved doing that in school. But now I see my stepdaughter who's, middle school, high school age now, and I'm like, where is all of this? Oh, well, it's just a class now, and we do like one show at the end of the year, and there's nothing for them to be passionate about outside of just, this is what you need to do. Go do it, shut up and do what you're supposed to do. Like, I love that even coming from nothing, coming from a country where you couldn't make these videos, you couldn't, we could do that when I was a kid. We could run around and videotape each other and make stupid little YouTube videos. And, my kids are 9 and 10 and they know how to do transitions and all of that stuff. And to see you go from that to coming here and just doing it. It's the drive and it's the motivation. And I think that a lot of people here in this country lack that, but they want the reward for it, right? They want to be the guy and they want the reward for it. And they want to be Mr. Joe Cool, but they don't want to do what it takes to get there. And there's always 100 million excuses on why they can't, when someone like you puts all of those bullshit excuses to shame. All of them.
Thank you. Yeah. I think it's just a little reminder. You just need a little reminder that, hey, if you want something, you can have it. It is really sad when you meet young people that just don't want something bad enough. And then to that, like, it's really hard to get them to do something. But I guess as a parent, I have 2 kids, and with my son, I don't want him to go to college. I want to find what it is that he wants to do, and then I will find ways to put him in touch with the people that know how to do that and trick him into thinking, hey, you can do this, like, even if he can't at the moment, because then he will go and do the things to get better at it, and then eventually he will be able to do it. And I think you just need to focus on you and your people, like your kids and your people around you and your family, what it is that they want to do, and also what it is that you want to do, and then work on that and forget about what other people are doing or not doing or keeping you from doing, like the whole victim mentality that sometimes we all have, like, and sometimes it happens to me as well, because it's really hard to make a film. It's really difficult to get someone to give you like $500,000 to go play with a camera and a microphone and try to come out with something that you can sell later in a theater or on a streaming service. It's really difficult. But we're here, like, we have come this far, and if it's some crazy people can make some movies and blow shit up, I want to do it too, and I want to make a shit ton of money with that. So let's go.
I'm here for that.
So we are at the end of our hour. We just do an hour live, but what we like to do is ask our guests to send us out with something motivational, positive, happy, just a little
Inspirational, whatever.
Inspirational, silly, goofy, whatever you want it to be. We have our guests close out our shows.
Yeah. Well, for anyone who's watching, I guess the thing that I would say is, guys, we're all going to fucking die. And at the end of the day, you need to try to do something that you want to do and live your life however it is that you want to do, making sure that you're putting your best effort out there and going big and going crazy with whatever it is that you want to do with your life. Enjoy it. And thank you guys so much for watching the show, and hopefully conversations like this where you get crazy people from Texas, Michigan, and Cuba talking about all things movies and politics and all of that. Hopefully with conversations like this, we're gonna all come closer, make new friendships, and like just spread love and happiness, because at the end of the day, everyone wants to eat some pizza and have some fun with some friends. So that's what I got.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
I hope we can have you on again, because
Yeah.
it's awesome.
sure.
Awesome talking to you for sure. Thanks for coming on, especially on a Saturday evening.
Yeah.
You're welcome,
We
guys.
really
Anytime.
appreciate it. And thank all you guys for tuning in. And the episode will be available on the channel forever and ever and ever, or until they take our channel from us once again because they don't like us. And Tux, you're gone. You're gone next week.
No.
No?
No.
No, you're still here this week. You're gone the following. Okay.
So
Thanks for tuning in, guys.
we will see everybody Tuesday night at our regular time.
We will.
Axel, again, really appreciate your time.
Thank you so
and
much.
Hopefully we'll get you on again.
Yeah.
For sure, guys. Anytime.
All right. Y'all have a good evening.
Thanks, guys.